So, there I was, peering through the peephole of my new apartment, the one I'd worked double shifts and slept 4 hours a night for. And on the other side, looking like something the cat dragged in, were my parents and my sister, Sarah. The rain was pouring, plastering their hair to their faces, and they had 3 massive suitcases pulled around their feet. My mother was banging on the door, her voice cracking as she wailed. "Please, honey, we have nowhere else to go. Just let us in." My father stood behind her, looking utterly defeated, and my sister, well, my sister just looked annoyed, like this was all a massive inconvenience for her. And what did I do? I made sure the deadbolt was locked, walked back to my couch, picked up my remote, and turned the volume up on the movie I was watching. If you think I'm a monster, trust me, you don't know the half of it. Let me take you back a year, and I promise you'll understand. My whole life, I was the responsible one. That's what they called me. It wasn't a compliment. It was a job description. I was the one who got straight A's, who started working at a greasy diner at 16 to save up for a car, who never missed a curfew. My sister, Sarah, was the creative one. That was code for messy, unreliable, and allergic to responsibility. She was 2 years older than me, but you wouldn't know it. While I was scrubbing ketchup off tables, she was off finding herself, a journey that apparently required a new expensive hobby every month, funded entirely by the bank of mom and dad. She got a brand new convertible for her 18th birthday. I got a lecture about the importance of public transportation. She failed 3 classes in her senior year, and my parents hired a team of tutors to drag her across the graduation stage. I got a B+ in AP Calculus once, and my dad asked me if I was losing focus. You get the picture. Sarah was the star, and I was the stagehand, making sure her spotlight never flickered. But it was okay, because I had the fund. My college fund. It was the one thing that was unequivocally mine. Ever since I was a kid, my parents had promised me that they were putting money away. It was my ticket to a good university, to a life outside my small town. They'd bring it up all the time. "Work hard in school, and the fund will take care of the rest," my dad would say. It was sacred. It was around $80,000, a life-changing amount of money that I had based my entire future around. The day I found out is burned into my memory. I was a senior in high school, and early acceptance letters were about to come out. I'd applied to my dream school, a great engineering program 3 states away. I just needed to log into the bank account to print a statement for a scholarship application. We had a joint account, but I rarely looked at it. I trusted them. I logged in. I looked at the balance. My heart stopped. It read, $142.37. I'm not kidding. $142. I thought it was a glitch. A banking error. I refreshed the page. The number didn't change. I felt the blood drain from my face. I clicked on the transaction history, my hand shaking so bad I could barely control the mouse. And there it was. One single, massive wire transfer from 6 weeks prior. $80,000. Gone. The recipient was a high-end property management company in the city. I stumbled out of my room, holding my laptop like it was a bomb. My parents and Sarah were in the living room, watching some reality TV show. "Where is it?" I asked. My voice was a whisper. My mom didn't even look at me. "Where's what, sweetie?" "The money," I said, my voice getting louder. "The college fund." "Where is it?" That got their attention. My dad muted the TV. My mom's smile tightened. Sarah actually rolled her eyes. I will never forget that. She rolled her eyes. "Ah," my dad said, clearing his throat. "We were meaning to talk to you about that." And then they told me. The story came out in a rush of excuses and justifications that made me feel like I was losing my mind. Sarah had decided she wanted to move to the city with her new boyfriend, a guy named Kevin who called himself an influencer and wore sunglasses indoors. They wanted a nice place, a place that reflected their brand. So, my parents, in their infinite wisdom, decided that Sarah's immediate desire for a 2-bedroom loft with exposed brick was more important than my entire future. They took my college fund and used it as a down payment and to pay for a full year's rent in advance. I just stared at them. I couldn't form words. It felt like the floor had just dropped out from under me. "It's an investment in your sister's happiness," my mother said softly, as if that made it okay. "You're so smart and resourceful. We knew you'd understand. You can always get student loans." "Loans?" I finally choked out. "You stole my future, and you're telling me to get into debt for it." And then Sarah spoke for the first time, in that whiny voice of hers. "Don't be so dramatic. It's not like the money is gone forever. It's just, like, being used for something else right now. Besides, that apartment is amazing. It has a rooftop pool. I think something inside me broke in that moment. That cold, hollow feeling in your chest when you realize the people who are supposed to love you unconditionally don't actually see you at all. They see a tool, a resource, a supporting character in someone else's story. "You're so resourceful," my dad repeated, like it was a magic spell. "You'll figure it out." That was the line. That was the phrase that would become my mantra. Figure it out. Okay, I thought. I will. The fight that followed was biblical. I screamed. I cried. I said things I'd never dared to say before. And through it all, they held firm. I was being selfish. I was being ungrateful. I was trying to ruin Sarah's big moment. By the end of it, I knew I was done. I packed a bag that night with my essentials, my laptop, and the $500 I had saved from my diner job. I called my best friend, and her parents let me crash on their couch, no questions asked. My parents barely even tried to stop me. They thought I was having a tantrum, that I'd come crawling back in a week. They were wrong. The next year was the hardest of my life. I finished high school while living in my friend's basement. I got my acceptance letter to my dream school, which felt more like a cruel joke than a victory. There was no way I could afford it. I deferred my admission for a year. I got 2 jobs. By day, I was a receptionist at a dentist's office, and by night, I was a waitress at a different, slightly less greasy restaurant. I worked 70 hours a week. I moved into a tiny, rundown apartment with 2 roommates I found on Craigslist. Meanwhile, Sarah was living her best life on Instagram. Every day was a new post. Pictures of her and Kevin drinking mimosas at brunch. Selfies from the rooftop pool. A shot of their new, ridiculously expensive espresso machine, with the caption, "My parents are literally the best." #blessed. Every post was a knife twisting in my gut. It was my future she was flaunting. My dreams funding her lattes. My parents would call. At first, it was to demand I come home. Then, it was to guilt me. "Your sister misses you," my mom would lie. "You're tearing this family apart," my dad would accuse. Not once did they apologize. Not once did they offer to help. Their only concern was that my absence made them look bad to their friends and our extended family. I stopped answering their calls. I blocked Sarah on all social media. I was on my own. And you know what? It was terrifying, but it was also freeing. Every dollar I earned was mine. Every small victory was my own. I was slowly, painfully, figuring it out. I saved money like a dragon hoarding gold. I ate ramen noodles until I hated the sight of them. I didn't buy new clothes. I didn't go out. My entire life was work, eat, sleep, repeat. And slowly, my bank account started to grow. It wasn't $80,000, not even close, but it was something. It was mine. About 10 months into my new life, I got a call from my aunt. She was the one family member who seemed to be on my side. "You're not going to believe this," she said, and her tone was a mix of horror and, I have to admit, a little bit of schadenfreude. The story she told me was insane. Kevin, the influencer boyfriend, was a complete fraud. The influencer thing was a cover. He was a professional grifter. He had convinced my parents that he had a can't-miss crypto investment opportunity. They, blinded by the idea of getting rich quick and keeping Sarah in the lifestyle she'd become accustomed to, didn't just encourage it. They emptied their retirement savings and gave it to him. He'd also convinced them to co-sign on a bunch of high-interest loans for his business ventures. And then, one day, he was just gone. He cleaned out the apartment, drained their bank accounts, and vanished. He left Sarah with nothing but a maxed-out credit card and a year-long lease she couldn't possibly afford. The fallout was catastrophic. The bank foreclosed on my parents' house. They had lost everything. Their home, their savings, their retirement. Everything. All because they couldn't say no to their golden child. I'd be lying if I said I didn't feel a dark, grim sense of satisfaction. It was karma, served ice cold. But mostly, I just felt tired. It was their mess, a 5-alarm fire they had set themselves. I wanted no part of it. 2 months later, I finally moved into my own place. It wasn't much, a small 1-bedroom in a safe, boring neighborhood. But it was heaven. It was clean, it was quiet, and it was all mine. I had a real bed, a tiny kitchen, and a lock on the door. For the first time in a year, I felt like I could breathe. And that's when they showed up. Which brings us back to my door. After I turned up the TV, they just kept banging and yelling for about 20 minutes. I could hear my mom's sobs, my dad's pathetic pleas, and Sarah's indignant shouts that I was being a total bitch. Finally, I paused my movie, went back to the door, and spoke through it, my voice calm and steady. Go away, I said. Honey, please, my mom cried. We're your family. We have nowhere to go. We're homeless. That sounds like a you problem, not a me problem, I said. Last I checked, I was on my own. You told me to figure it out, and I did. Now it's your turn. This isn't fair, Sarah screeched. It wasn't my fault. Kevin tricked all of us. You have a spare room. You have to help us. I almost laughed. I didn't have a spare room. I had a one-bedroom apartment. Did she expect me to give her my bed while I slept on the floor? After everything, the sheer, unadulterated entitlement was breathtaking. Let me be perfectly clear, I said, my voice dropping. You are the reason I live in this tiny apartment and not a dorm at my dream school. You are the reason I've spent the last year working myself to the bone instead of studying. You didn't care about my future or my happiness then, so forgive me for not caring about yours now. You made your choices. These are the consequences. Goodbye. I heard a thud, like my dad leaning against the door. He spoke for the first time, his voice thick. We're your parents. We made a mistake. A mistake is taking a wrong turn on the highway, I shot back. What you did was a conscious choice. You looked at your two daughters, and you decided that one of them was worth sacrificing for the other. You chose. And you chose her. So go live with her. Oh wait, you can't. Because her amazing apartment, the one you bought with my future, is gone too, isn't it? There was just silence after that. Sweet, beautiful silence. After a few minutes, I looked through the peephole again. They were gone. The aftermath was messy. My phone blew up with texts from relatives I hadn't spoken to in a year, all calling me heartless and cruel. I blocked every single one of them. My aunt called to tell me that they had ended up at her place, and she was letting them stay for a month before kicking them out. They were all looking for jobs. My dad, who hadn't worked a non-office job in 30 years, was now a greeter at a Walmart. My mom was working as a cashier. And Sarah, my beautiful, creative sister Sarah, was a waitress at a diner. A diner that was, coincidentally, even greasier than the one I used to work at. The irony was so thick you could choke on it. As for me, I'm doing just fine. I'm re-enrolling in my dream school next fall. I got a couple of big scholarships, and with the money I saved, I can just about afford it. I'll still have to work, but it's manageable. I'm free. I don't have the weight of their expectations or their favoritism on my shoulders anymore. Sometimes I feel a pang of guilt, but then I remember looking at that bank statement. I remember Sarah's eye roll. And I remember my dad's three little words, figure it out. And I did. I really, truly did. So yeah, that's the story of how I left my homeless family out in the rain. It sounds harsh, I know, but every time I walk into my quiet, peaceful apartment, the one that I earned all by myself, I know I made the right choice. If you want to hear more, like the time my aunt tried to stage an intervention at Thanksgiving, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Believe me, with my family, the crazy never stops.